Becoming Better Together. I'm your host, Brie. Let's get started. I have a question for you. As always, I will have a journal question for you at the end, so make sure you stay so that you see how this applies and get yourself thinking. All right, my question to start, how much TV do you watch? I have been grappling with this since I started my personal development journey. And here's why. I used to be the biggest Netflix binger. Oh my gosh, I would watch everything. And even growing up, that was something that my family, we really sat down and we would watch shows together. I grew up in the time that American Idol had just first started, and as a family, we would sit down and watch it. Do you have some kind of tradition like that, or does TV have some kind of special place for you that it wasn't a waste? It had some kind of purpose. And for me, I had that growing up. And then I went to work and I got a job and I went through college and I still watched a lot of TV because I really liked stories. But I started to warp that relationship a little bit, where it wasn't we sit down as a family and we have popcorn, we watch American Idol or Grey's Anatomy together. No, that had shifted. And I started to use TV to numb myself when I didn't want to focus on my life and I wanted to escape into somebody else's. So, personal development. I started canceling all of my subscriptions. I stopped watching Netflix. I stopped watching my shows that I really enjoyed. And for a while, it was serving me really well. I was reading. I was doing all the things we are told we should. And depending on how long you have been on your own, I'll call it a personal discovery journey. That's what I went through, where I hit this breaking point and I kind of had to redefine who I was and who I even wanted to be, because I didn't know this girl anymore about 2 years ago. Had no idea what had happened to me, and I was in a very depressed state. I was drinking my face off and I was watching a ton of TV, way too much, because it was easier to be in those shows and in their lives than it was to be in mine at the time. And so when I got into self-growth and motivation and personal development and mindset, the first thing to go was TV. I realized it was my escape. And so I stopped for a long time. However, I still really like shows. And so I've been kind of grappling, and maybe you've gone through this yourself, of what do I do with some of the past identity? What do we do with it? Do we throw it out and say, that's not who I am anymore? I have changed. That was an old chapter, and we forget about it? Or do we build on top of it? And so I'm choosing more and more to stop poo-pooing TV. TV isn't all evil. It's just about how I was spending my time and how I chose to prioritize things when I had nothing else going on. Now, I know myself a lot more. I feel a lot more aware. I feel like I have purpose, and I'm not going to spend my days wasting away in front of the TV anymore because I have something that serves me, that motivates me, that wants to move forward. Do you? And if you don't, that's okay right now. But what's not okay is if you're not in constant pursuit of how you want to live your life to the absolute best of your ability so that you don't have to escape into somebody else's stories. And if you feel like me a little bit, where you're like, yeah, I still really do like TV, but I have a little bit of that guilt when I do sit down to watch it. I went through that for about the past year. I really do. I like TV. I like movies. I love stories. I love fantasy. I like Harry Potter. I love Game of Thrones. Fantasy, fiction, tales where you can really see character development and see how even in fiction, characters and the way that they think and they feel and the human condition, it's all very similar. And so I would get really absorbed by when a character just made a lot of psychological sense to me because it was something I could connect with and relate with. Are you that same type of person? And if so, maybe we need to bury some of that guilt. And so I've been working on that. And by doing that, I've actually picked up some shows again just to enjoy and to try to get something different out of that isn't numbing anymore, but just to enjoy it and to relax. And weirdly, the thing that I picked back up was Game of Thrones. And if you've ever seen the show, it's not one that you would typically think, oh, this is going to be really relaxing. No, it's not. It's pretty intense, but the character development is so good. If you have watched Game of Thrones and you're on my team and you're a fan, the last season got so much flack because of how the character development changed. Because of one character who was my favorite, by the way, Daenerys. Hopefully you've seen this show. If not, I'll kind of explain it. Basically, Daenerys she becomes the Queen of Dragons, and she the last season, why she got so much flack was because her character shifted, and she was supposed to be this breaker of change, this girl that freed all these slaves. It was this like very empowering tale for a woman to become a ruler and want to take over these 7 kingdoms and whatever. It's all very fantasy and fairy tale, but it's awesome. It's really cool. So if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend checking it out if you're okay with some, I'll say, gore, to say the least. There's a lot of sword fighting, like there's a lot of blood, there is. But it's really interesting. And so Daenerys, I was going back to watch the last season because I was trying to remember, one, I couldn't remember at all what happened. When it had came out the last season, I was actually in Croatia where it was filmed, and that was really cool. But because I was in Croatia during 2 weeks of the last season, I remember watching some of the episodes on my phone, which I couldn't see anything. It was horrible and dark, and so I just didn't remember a lot. So I started going back because I really do like storytelling, and I love analogies. And pressing that part of my character down so that I can only be self-development, that wasn't working for me. And so I'm watching TV again because it's giving me stories and it's giving me content, and I freaking love it. So again, if you feel like me, drop some of the guilt, and you can still enjoy the things that served you in old chapters, they can serve you again in a new flavor. And this is what it's doing for me. So Daenerys, I wanted to remember why everyone was so upset. And I couldn't. I didn't even remember what happened. If she lived or died, I had no idea. I couldn't remember. So I went back and I watched the last season again because House of Dragons came out. And so I went back and I watched that last season. And something really interesting happened because I started to understand why she changed. Because I've gotten into personal development, because I understand mindset, because now I understand identity and how it works and how we view the world. And so there's this episode where Jon Snow falls in love with her. It's another main character, and they were like my power people. I loved them, and I just wanted both of them to really have a good ending. They were my power people. I loved those characters. He falls in love with Daenerys, but then starts to see behind the layers. So think of an onion, peel those layers away to really understand her core beliefs as a human. And she goes from this sweet girl to this very empowered ruler who starts to see things a little differently than everybody else. And to the normal eye, gets extremely power hungry, and the character development seemed to go a little off from her normal breaker of chains, freer of the people, like whatever it was. Suddenly she becomes a power hungry tyrant. And in the last season, it didn't make sense at the time, and now it makes complete sense. Let me tell you why. And so there's this episode where Jorah, one of her advisors, tells Jon Snow when he sees that she's about to burn down the city, and he's like, how does she believe this is, how does she think this is okay? How is her reality normal, that this is fine and that we can support this woman that's burning down the city? Like, how is she not batshit crazy, essentially? And so Jorah says, listen, look at her background story. If you were her, how would this not be your reality? Because what happens is she at some point walks into flames that was a fire of pyre to burn one of her ex-husband, Khal Drogo. Again, I hope you're a fan of the show. If not, skip this episode. But she walks into these flames with dragon eggs, and dragons hadn't been around for like 200 years. And she walks out of the flames afterwards, having birthed these 3 dragon eggs, completely untouched by the fire, completely invincible. And then that is her sign and her reality that she is meant to rule this world. And so he says to Jon, if this had happened to you, how would this not be your reality? How would you not think that this was absolutely your destiny and this was your purpose and your calling and you could do anything and must do anything to rule these kingdoms because this is your place and you are the one that's going to change everything? And that made so much sense to me this time around because I just understand people more. And so I want you to make sense of this too, and I want to explain the brain, the concept behind this and why this actually makes a ton of sense for her character development, even though at the time we were giving the writers a ton of crap because it didn't make sense. It does. And so for you and me and us and how we make reality for us, we choose our beliefs. We really do. Sometimes they're chosen for us when we're young kids, but we have a filtering system in our brain that tells us what to look for and to confirm that our reality is the reality for us, right? And that whatever we think has to be true. That's not always the case. And so I want to do a little activity with you to show you how this works. So close your eyes. If you're sitting in your car, please keep driving. But if you're not, close your eyes. And I want you to think about what the room looks like around you right now. There's probably a lot of colors going on. Maybe there's not that many. I don't know. Okay. Think about some of the visuals you're going to see. And now open your eyes. Now I want you to scan the room for everything red. Really quick. Close your eyes again. Okay. How many red things did you see? Answer that for me. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 2, maybe it's none. Okay. How many blue things did you see? And you're going to say, I don't know. You told me to look for red. That's how our realities work. We pretty much, with our own beliefs as a human, we're looking for one color all the time. And so then when we're like, yeah, I see that red thing, that makes sense to me. It's confirmation bias. We will look for things that prove to ourselves that we are right. And so if you've ever had an argument with a spouse and you're looking for reasons to show him that you are right and he can't see your reality and you guys just aren't seeing the middle, one of you is looking for red signs, one of you is looking for blue. And to each other, it doesn't make sense because you're looking for the wrong colors. But we'll confirm to ourselves, my red world makes way more sense than your blue world. Because in our reality, it does. It's all we're looking for. So our brains, they're like detectives. It's like Google. If we ask it to look for all the red things, it's going to go, okay, absolutely. And it'll find all the red things and be like, aha, we're very good at this. We have found so much red. It is a red world. But if you tell your brain to look for blue, it's going to do the same thing. Oh, I'll find all those blue things for you. You know, we like to be right. It's an ego boost. We love it. And so for Daenerys, suddenly I was like, oh, the character makes a ton of sense. And that scene brought everything together for me because I was like, oh, of course. She is looking for all the reasons that she is this ruler, that she is this powerful, that she has to be the one to kind of burn the cities down to build a new world. It makes sense. So this blew my mind open about character development again, and how there's so much psychology sometimes in these shows that if we can stop being like, oh, I didn't want this to happen to my character and be mad about it, we can really appreciate what the writers have done. They really made her reality perfect to me now. And I was so mad before. And now I'm just looking back and I chuckle and I respect it. And I actually grew more appreciation for the character because it's perfectly on brand and I love it. And so my question for you is, if things aren't going the way you want them to, are you looking for reasons to support that? Are you looking for troubles? Are you looking for problems? Are you looking through the red lens of why I can't do something? Why it doesn't make sense? Why I don't want to be positive today because it's raining and the world is sad? I was this person. I looked through a red lens, not a rose-colored lens, but an angry lens and a sad lens. And I looked for reasons in my reality that the world was bad, that people were bad, that we were mean to each other, that people cheated on each other, that we cheated and stole from each other, and that money was corrupt, and that jobs were corrupt because we listened to the man, and I thought I had all this freedom, and I wanted to be different, and I was miserable. And I was looking through that lens. And so when I would go look for clues as to why that was real and true, and why my reality should be everyone's reality, and how are happy people in self-development, I called them superhumans, and I hated them. I've become one. It's really, it's kind of an identity fuck, let's be honest. But I used to hate those people. I used to hate them because I was jealous as shit and I wouldn't admit it to myself. And so if you are looking in your reality, I want you to question it and I want you to challenge it today. Which Daenerys are you? Are you the one that can only see this reality so everything makes sense and you have to be angry and it has to be this way? This is my destiny. This is who I am. I failed once. I will fail again. I've been angry for 20 years because of something that happened to me 10 years ago. This is who I am now. I'm angry. None of this has to be true. We can choose to look at a new lens and go, wait, I can look for new clues as to why this belief is wrong, and I can replace it with a new truth. And we can do that by asking ourselves better questions, looking for reasons that are different, that are going to start to make sense to us if we're open-minded, instead of just looking through one lens all the time of why the world is angry and evil and corrupt and people are mean and there's no peace and there's war and there's always going to be conflict. Does that all have to be true? Or are you going and searching for reasons to be angry, to be upset, to want to numb, to just not look through a lens that's going to serve you and make you happier? I shifted that. You can too. And so again, my question is, what lens are you viewing the world in right now? And if it's not a happy, empowered, I can do anything, the world is mine lens, what questions do you need to ask yourself to start looking for clues to affirm that as your reality? We can do anything. We can be anything. We can make new choices in every moment of every day. That is incredible to me. I didn't think that before. I thought who you were is who you are. The end, period. We do not change as people. That is not true. And so I started to shift my reality. And again, you can too. And I started to look for clues. And I started to look for reasons why this new truth I wanted to hold on to is true. That we can do anything and be anything and change and decide who we want to be. And that our personalities can literally shift to become who you want to be. When we shed some of the stuff that is keeping us feeling like we don't know who we are anymore. And that's what happened to me. Who is this girl? Why is she drinking so much? Why is she miserable? I became a shell of myself because I was looking for reasons that affirmed all of that to be true and why everything was bad and wrong and evil and victim. That was me for a long time and I didn't even see it. One day I woke up. Now we're over here. How can you look through that lens and find all the reasons to affirm the new reality? How can you be Daenerys that makes sense and this is your destiny and you are the savior for yourself or for your family or for others or whoever? What reality do you need to shift and make up as a beautiful story for yourself that's going to help you see, this makes sense to me. And I'm going to start looking for possibility. I'm going to start looking for reasons why I should start the business, why I can, why I must. Why I can invest in myself, why this time will be different, why I can be different. This is your moment because we get to choose every single day. In your conscious thoughts, if you were listening right now, you're consciously thinking, okay, maybe I can do something about this. Use these moments when you're aware of yourself to rewrite that story, to choose a new path, to choose a new color to look through and choose a new lens. The more you do it, the more and the faster you shift into that world that you want to believe in. You believe in yourself more, your confidence goes up. Slowly or quickly, depending on how much you immerse yourself in this, you can become one of those superhumans. The ones that I used to hate, and now I love it. And that's all that's the whole point of becoming better together, is that I want to collect that tribe of people that are on the growth path with me. Knowing that it never stops. There's always another level to get to. There's always more that we can experience, be happy about, be proud of. Just go out there and live a different life and feel like we have purpose and meaning. I didn't have any of that before. And that's why I was stuck and miserable and numb. I was emotionally bankrupt. I had zero purpose. Now I have a ton because I chose to look for it, find it, and say, yes, this is exactly what I want. I know I can. It's a much happier place. And so for you, figure out what lens you're looking through. And if you need to start shifting it, the way you do it is you ask yourself different questions so that your Google, your brain, your RAS filter can start looking for reasons to affirm that as your new truth. And the more you find reasons, say, I like that. Ooh, that made sense to me. The more you shift and it becomes your reality all the time. And it doesn't have to feel like work anymore. People ask me that a lot. Oh, this sounds hard. It feels like a lot of work. I thought I had gotten over this trigger and then something happened and I slid backwards and so then I failed. You haven't failed. It gets easier over time. We never completely give up that other lens. We have to be at peace with our past and know that you have to have good and bad together. Daenerys, she had some good, she had some bad, but it made sense as a whole human, and we're whole humans too. It's okay. But you do get to choose how you want to have your human experience and look for the good, look for the possible, look for the potential instead of all the problems. Check your lens today. Journal about this if you will, and let me know what you come up with. And if you have other characters that you also can see why their reality makes total sense to you and that they were a great character, let me know on social media. Again, as much as I didn't want to be all about TV and shows and fiction, it's a big part of me growing up and a big part of my past. And instead of stomping it down and being like, no, TV is bad, I'm just gonna start I'm embracing it. I'm looking at everything through new lenses and I'm finding new ways to enjoy all parts of the story. And you can too. That's what I got for you today. Thank you for coming as always. If you get any humor or insight or experience out of this that you enjoy, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and leave a rating and review. I appreciate it more than you know, and it helps organically show other people that are like us this kind of content. I appreciate you. I will see you next time.